Welcome, everyone. This is, well, Michael, Wayne, and I have been doing this series. We've done 33 interviews, you said, right? Counted them up. The last 3 years of Voices for the Future. We've interviewed people on many broad range of topics of current events and things of the future. And once a year, we just open it up to all the listeners and talk about what we've heard, what we'd like to hear, what you liked, what you didn't like, any speakers you want to see or hear, anything you want to talk about, really.
Yeah, anything close to your heart. And I mean, we live in and Day and I were talking for a while before we came on here, just talking about this, what we see in the world. So, anything that we want to talk, whether personal life or the life of our society and all the tipping points and collective hysteria or insanity that we see these days, a lot of instability.
Michael, you had a quote that you were going to start the discussion off with that I thought was really kind of summed it up and kicks off where we're at.
Yeah. Well, it was a quote. It was something I put in the email. It just kind of came to me thinking about this balance of because the themes of the speakers we have some are exclusively people who focus on personal growth, and others focus exclusively on societal growth, societal evolution, and some are working in both worlds. So I came up with that quote that I put in the email, if any of you read the email and remember it, but it went, "In a world of such stark contrasts, of awe-inspiring beauty and despair-inducing crises, what better way to renew a commitment to a more beautiful future than to meet in communion to freely discuss what is in your heart, mind, and soul?" And it's, loneliness is such a big thing nowadays, and hopefully that's not anything any of you are dealing with or experience, but a lot of people, and really it's how do you find communion? How do you find community and especially of like-minded people? Most people have family or a community of work people, but you don't always feel like connected to that. But and especially, as I said, in a world of such stark contrast, how do we get to speak what's on our heart, mind, and soul? And that's where Day and I thought.
Yeah. Jennifer, I see you shaking your head, when he's talking about community, like maybe you don't have it, or maybe you want to speak.
I just find that as we evolve, as we grow, there's kind of like a rebalancing and a shift in who our community is as well. Because we thought our community was our neighborhood and our family. We thought our family was our community. However, if our family is not growing or evolving, then we don't really connect as we used to. There still is that unconditional love, but the connection is different. And that's why it's kind of like, Michael's mentioning like family and stuff like that in community, but so much has changed and so much is shifting. And when certain people make a choice to step forward in their lives, in their growth of why they came to Earth, it's a choice that they make, right? So when other people might not be aware or make that choice, or even taking a baby step, there's a disconnect sometimes. It feels like that's what I noticed. So you kind of walk around in your being in your truth, right?
If I'm getting what you're saying, you're talking about some people are on a path of their evolution and some people are not, and it's creating a rift between those who are growing and those who are resisting. Is that what you're talking about? And that rift can come into families.
It's noticeable. Yeah. It's we're so capable of so much in all these ways. And a lot of people don't realize what they're capable of. But if they're not ready to take that step for themselves as well, then it's kind of like, what, you just you meet I'm learning, like, for myself, I'm just learning to try to meet people where they're at, just because you can see the light of another being, and that's that's who you connect with. You connect with their light, you feel that. But where they're at in this experience for them in this moment is a little bit different often. And that's what I'm trying to learn in my life.
Yeah. And we only make a bridge when we meet people where they're at without judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for
like a big
kicking off and sharing, Jennifer. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's in your minds and hearts, people that have been, some of you have been listening to our talks along the year. Some of you have not been on this for, haven't been here before at all and tuning in for the first time.
Well, let's, before, I'm thinking before we go there, Anadea, let's start with some preliminary questions, kind of nuts and bolts. You've written up some questions, Anadea, such as to ask people just to help us, and also to kind of help you also about the interviews we've done. As Anadea said, we've done 33 so far, but we're wondering what interviews that you've watched have stood out for you, whether you've come live or watched the recording. That we'd really like to hear about, to help us, because like when the prior discussion group we did, December 2021, we got a lot of feedback during the discussion group asking what kind of speakers, and a number of people said more women. So we've really made sure that we've had more women. So if anybody wants to give us any feedback as to some of the interviews that have stood out.
Maybe we could review some of them. I'm going to go to the archive page right here. And I assume that, like the most recent we did was one on universal basic income with Scott Santens. And he was quite the brain that had it all down about how to make that work, and policy and everything else.
I'm actually going to put in the chat box every one we've done. Let's see.
Oh, wow.
Well, I cut and pasted from the page, but we have them all. Oh, telling me my message is too long. Oh, I'll have to break it down.
Well, let's just do this year.
Yeah.
This year.
In 2023, you mean?
Yeah.
Not the last 12 months. I can name them all. I'll just read them all. So far in 2023, we did, the first one was the potential. The first one was the potential for education to strengthen democracy. And that was a conversation with transformational educator Gerard Senahi. Then the next one was changing consciousness through radical activism, a conversation with Mary Adams. Next one after that was the one with the film director, Yoruba Ricken, who on her film, The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks, her documentary. After that was on evolutionary relationships and the future of the world. That was a conversation with Ronald Smith and Sierra Sullivan of Eden World. Then after that, we had Igniting the Holomovement, a conversation with activist and writer Emmanuel Kunzelman. Then after that, we did one on urban renewal, the sad and unfortunate history of urban renewal in the US. That was a conversation with the public historian Dave Hochfelder. Then after that, we did a new story of wholeness. This one, the new story of wholeness, an experiential guide to connecting the human family. That was a conversation with author and developmental psychologist Robert Atkinson. And we had a lot of engagement. People, you know, we stopped after an hour and a half. We could have kept going because people were really wanting to talk about the things we were talking about with Robert Atkinson. And then the last one that Anna brought up was called Let There Be Money. That was conversation about universal basic income with Scott Santons, which was really fascinating. And Scott's just brilliant on.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and if anybody could make, if that famous quote from Margaret Mead that just a few people can change the world, Scott Santons probably might be able to do it single-handedly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I'm of the belief, I'm a fierce advocate too for universal basic income, and I think that would be such a game changer for our society and world. And as Scott said, also just one more thing on it, that once one country does it, you know, that will be the momentum. So anyway, so I listed all the ones this year. If anyone wants to say which ones they've enjoyed, anything that stood out, you know.
You also did one with me on my She Rises cards.
Yeah, that was in December. Sorry, I had to mention that.
Oh, it was in December. Okay.
Yeah, that was December. Yeah, She Rises, and you showed the video from your event. That was really cool. Yeah, so as I said, we've tried to have a mix of people talking about personal evolution and then societal evolution, and then those who find the intersection of both. You know, really worked at that, you know, finding that variety of speakers.
And we really want to serve you as a community. So what do you want to see? We go into our next fiscal year, and these events are always free. We just do them out of the love of our hearts to put more consciousness into the field and give these people a voice that are doing really good things, because it's so easy to lose heart and to go into despair when you read the news and you see what's going on in this world. And really, there's a lot of movers and shakers doing some very good things to create a better future, but they don't get much press. And so part of our job here, you know, that Michael and I are doing is trying to give these people a voice and let them, you know, speak to more people and inspire you by what people are doing. And, you know, I didn't know about a lot of these people till I heard them speak. And so we want to know what else you want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep plugging away until people don't want to hear from us anymore. So.
Yeah.
But I know some of the
welcome, Grace, and welcome Marie, who just came on.
Some of the
regulars.
Hey there.
I've been on. I just been hiding.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you're doing this.
Yeah, well, thanks. Glad you could make it. Yeah, some of the programs we had, like on the urban renewal, was not well attended, but I just felt like I had met the Dave Hochfelder, the public historian who we interviewed at a talk that he gave on it. And I thought, this is so important for people to understand. So, you know, for some that may have seemed like a negative topic, but, you know, it's important to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's why I had that quote of the world of such stark contrasts of awe-inspiring beauty and despair-inducing crises, because, as much as we want to see, as voices for the future, a world of a more beautiful world, and have that voice, have that vision, we can't deny where things are, the dark side too. And it's like yin and yang. There's a dark and light, and each side of it. And but we want more light in the world, but you can't.
There's more light than we think there is.
Yeah.
There's more light than it looks like, with people waking up, with people making changes, creating new things, new ways, confronting, building something new that is the world we know in our hearts is possible. And that's, mostly what we want to focus on, not in a, airy-fairy, Pollyanna kind of way that everything's going to be hearts and roses, but in a way that really talks about what's going on in the world and is doing something about it, and has a positive spin for what's possible and where we're going, hopefully to give you all hope. But again, this is the one time a year where we just bring everybody online, and you can share what's in your heart, what you want to hear, what touched you in any of the interviews. Like last year when we did this, we heard people wanted to hear more from women, and we'd had too many men in our guest speaker list. And so we tried to do something about that. And we want to hear what you have. Well, we'll respond.
Yeah. Or even
you
like,
want to speak? So unmute yourself.
All right.
hey,
Truly, I came from Western medicine as a pharmacist. And my first year, I was like, why are people getting sicker? So I went on to study herbalism and clinical nutrition. And then I went on to learn about hands-on healing. And we need a new face of medicine that helps us to take personal responsibility, starting from the inside, coming out. Because people feel, I don't know, there's such a system that's set up. Oh, you're sick, here, do this. But if they had a system that taught them how to express their emotions, their thoughts in healing ways, to start manifesting down to a cellular level, understanding our chakras, how our words manifest at the first level, these things like that. We need to build those bridges, and it starts with us.
Yes, it does. Yeah. We did have a couple of years ago, Dr. Elson Haas on evolutionary medicine and the future of healthcare. And he's a personal friend and a doc, and he has been in medicine a long, long time, and has also been, he talks about natural, Eastern, and Western as a combination of the three. Sometimes natural medicine, herbalism is what you need. Sometimes Eastern medicine is what you need, acupuncture. Michael Wayne himself is an acupuncturist. And sometimes if you break a leg, Western medicine is what you need. Have your bones set and get an x-ray. And all the positive thinking in the world is not necessarily going to heal about a broken leg. You need a splint or whatever. So you might want to go to the archive and listen to that if you like, and we'll take that under advisement to look for some others that are talking about that.
Yeah, I got a suggestion there.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just got out of the pool. Bear with me. It's been one of those days. Well, I had mentioned Pam Popper, and I know there's this perception that she's far right, but I've met her. I know her personally, and she's really trying hard to, this woman lives her talk. She really is working hard at with her Americans Free. It's not political. We're not allowed to be political. It's not intended that way. But through the legal,
tell us a little more first about what she does, because I'm not familiar with her.
Well, what her main purpose, it's Pamela Popper. She wrote the book. Well, I got it here. Hold on. She wrote the bestseller Food Over Medicine.
Oh,
way back when. Yeah, and she's based in Columbus, Ohio.
Uh-huh.
And she has really, I mean, she's had people try to shoot her, kill her, whatever, because what she does, she actually has a database where she actually vets very carefully the data. And if she's wrong, she'll say she's wrong. If she's right, she says she's right. You know, but she's really trying hard. And I can just tell you from my own experience in Florida, trying to get decent health care or whatever you want to call it, now we're in a situation where this pharmacist who just spoke, anybody that is trying to be holistic, they can't get insurance. I mean, it's a cash only thing. And she says trying to petition and this and that, you have to go through the legal system. You have to start suing and building a legal team. And her main job is to, if you get a diagnosis and the doctor says this or that, is to have informed decision making. In other words, these are your options. If you want the colonoscopy, fine, but understand the risk. What you do is your business. She doesn't advocate particularly one diet over the other because she says people are different. They have different needs and you have to be practical about it. But I've been there, I've known her, I've met her personally. She's a little bit like Wayne is. She can get a little militant, you know, about certain people, but you know, that's good. But I think the fact that healthcare has become so political has gotten ridiculous. And I've noticed, for example, like Bill Mayer and Dr. Phil, a lot of these people are aiming for a healthy middle ground. You know, so anybody you can get that's trying to just fix it in a healthy way and not be too political about it, I think would be awesome. But she'd be a fantastic speaker. And she does YouTubes and she does her research thoroughly. She's very thorough about it. And she teaches people how to do research. She goes, because so much of what we think is, you know, the research says, well, you got to look at who's paying for that research. Yeah. And most doctors don't have time. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents. Okay.
Popper, maybe put her name in the chat.
Yeah, I will. I'll give you her website. Let me get this going here real quick. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Marie.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's good that you brought that up and Yvonne brought up the whole healthcare system, as Anna had mentioned. An acupuncturist, so I'm immersed in the healthcare system. I kind of walk both in between Western and Eastern medicine, and I see, you know, just from the personal level, from the political level, from the economic level, the problems with the healthcare system. And it's so profit driven, but people are so ill, and it's just, it feeds each other. It's just got this momentum that's just out of control. It's like a Frankenstein monster. So it's good that you both brought it up, because that would be a good topic, whether Pamela Popper or other people, to on different aspects of the healthcare system,
including asking, why are people getting sick?
Exactly.
What is the model of health and illness that we have that is allowing so much chronic illness, so much cancer, so much, you know, childhood illness? And
so much profit driven. I was when I take trips to Europe, I've been in various cities, and I'll walk the streets and I'll see, you know, what I look for is doctors' offices, and what I see are just, you know, the apartment buildings, and there'll be a little plaque on the wall to the steps, and it'll say a doctor's name. So, which means that inside a flat in that building is a doctor's office. But I don't see urgent care centers. There's got to be hospitals. Someone told me there's a very nice hospital in Vienna. I've been in Vienna, so it must be somewhere. But you don't see it. It's not the growth industry. It is in the U.S. A friend of mine, another acupuncturist, was telling me that a patient of his, a Canadian patient who's been living in the U.S. for a little while, says, "Oh, in the U.S. it's all medical and fast food." And gee,
And they
closely.
go together.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally,
They go together.
totally.
The
Totally.
money is in the healthcare business, and so, you know, some people who are more conspiracy minded said, oh, it's they're trying to make us sick so that they can make more money. And, you know, I think it's a little bit conspiratorial. It's just the system is just feeding itself. So
Yeah.
Grace has raised her hand very politely. So I imagine that means Grace wants to talk. You want to? So if you do want to talk, Grace, just unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Oops.
Bear in mind, there's several people on the call, so just be mindful to keep it concise.
Yeah, I tend to go on too long.
Okay.
Oh, I can't access the camera. Okay, so I'm off camera. All right. Might be
Your
just
call
my
if you
Zoom,
want to be on camera or not.
but my Zoom settings are off, I think. Anyway, yeah, I have too much to say, but I think a holistic approach is the answer we need for the whole world. I think our mistake is separating spirituality and economics. I think if we take the model of holistic medicine, everything connected internationally, nationally, schools, education, prisons, everything, the positive is what works. The controlling top down dominating doesn't. If we take that model, that set of principles, and what Lynn Twist was talking about yesterday, I was writing about synchronicity right before that, about how there's an enoughness when we have good food, nutritious food, we don't overeat. When we have inner satisfaction, inner fullness, we don't over possess or are greedy. When we create consciousness, we have the internet, the incredible opportunity to be conscious worldwide of each other's needs, of situations of our humanity. Our going into division is partly being calculated, unfortunately. Part of this is to break us down, but why the desire to break us down is because it's non-functional. We can't have a world that's dominated by one set of entities or one culture or one type of system over others. Every nation in the world deserves a viable economy, a secure identity, secure territory. How do we make that work? Anyway, I'm struggling with my own overflow of ideas, but my shyness of putting my ideas out there. But anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, Grace, you've been with us for a lot of them, and you've heard a lot of these talks, and you've always had intelligent things to say. So we appreciate your participation and your thoughtfulness. I know from the things you say that you really care deeply about this world and about making change. So thank you.
I think we're at a crisis
acknowledge
point.
you.
I think we're facing fascism, surveillance, AI, robots, cyborgs, not just climate change, but or the fall of all of civilization as we consider it. I mean, we in different ways. You know, Musk go to other planets, leave the Earth devastated. Other people destroy Western civilization because it's messing everybody up. Other people, you know, just leave it and be passive and, you know, or be spiritual, but don't be active. We've got, I'm sorry I'm speaking so strongly, but we've got to be active, clear. You guys, I want to see you unite with peace, unity. All of you unite with Scott Katamas. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. With
Scott Katamas of the Earth Tribe.
Yes,
Yeah.
and with peace, unity, with Ben, forget his last name, Bowler or something like that. With Marianne Williamson, which I just think got to be incredible integration. I was shocked that Dean Graziosi, I love Tony Robbins, but Dean Graziosi is subscribing to something 13 AI, which is going to put tons of people out of work. It's advertising great, you know, profits, but it's going to put tons of workers out of work. And there's so many issues we're dealing with. We need social media. We need big presence. We need unity among all of us. We need sanity of the community that brings psychology, common sense to a world gone, you know, it's going all wrong. We've got to bring fairness, justice, love, healing, centeredness, common sense, psychology, coaching, negotiation skills to a world that really needs us. And we're all in our little pockets doing good things, but we need to really be a movement and unite and get social media presence really big way and open up people's hearts and minds to vision, cooperation, how we can all lift each other up and make this a fantastically beautiful world. We can do it, but we've got to move now. We've got to unite. We've got to really make that effort. And thanks for listening. And I hope this inspires you. That's my hope.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Grace. I think we all can agree on most of those things. That's why we do this podcast, you know, for the positive things that rule our world, that we know in our hearts is possible. Yeah. Jazz hands, welcome to this forum.
Thank you. Thank you, Anadia. Hi, everybody. This is my first time attending. I knew nothing about this until I got an email from Anadia. It sounds very exciting, inspiring, energizing. The thing that I did perk up when I heard the title was the radical activism one. And so I have sort of two things to say. I would like to see more. I'm certainly going to go back and check out that one, but I am going to, I would like to see more of that, particularly picking up on what Grace was saying in terms of like what is happening in the world. It's really, I see a lot of dark. I see the good stuff, but I see the dark, the clouds coming together in ways that, you know, they haven't before. Like at the Supreme Court level, like what do you do when, you know, when women are losing rights, when affirmative action is gone, when they're coming for LGBT and trans people, or all of it. And like, what can I do, you know, against the Supreme Court? Nothing. But I would love to hear more about people that are creating responses, building movements, coming together, ways that I can get involved, support financially or in other ways. I know that there's people out there doing good work in all of those areas. And if I could hear more about them, that would be very exciting for me. As a way of doing something and not just despairing, right? The other thing that I will say is I second that idea of wanting to hear more speakers, more women speakers, and I would like to expand that as well to other genders beyond the binary male, female. There's non-binary speakers of all kinds. I identify as non-binary myself, and both to hear about their journeys as non-binary people, but also, you know, to hear about, you know, they just happen to be non-binary and they're doing great work in universal basic income. I don't know, whatever. Just to diversify the spectrum of people that we can hear from. I think that we would all benefit from that.
Oh, I think those are great topics. And really, we have not had anybody on talking about gender and gender fluidity and LGBTQ rights and issues, and especially with some of the things that have been happening even in the medical world. We were just talking earlier, where in the last week, 19 states have made it okay to go into people's private medical records if they have any interest in being trans or have looked at trying to get an abortion in another state, and they have revealed their medical records, often without those people even knowing that that was happening. You know, the privacy of our medical records used to be something that was sacrosanct. And this is targeting a particular population for, you know, well, really racist purposes. Yeah. And targeting women and targeting trans people and targeting, you know, gender fluid people. And yeah, so, all right, we'll look for someone on that. And if you know of someone, Jazz Hands, that you have heard that, you know, we can reach out to, that would be great too. And I'll keep my eye out for it.
Yeah, definitely let us know, Jazz Hands.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah. Leah, you have raised your hand, so I assume that means you want to talk, right? Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is also my very first meeting and hearing about everything. I'm just really inspired right now, you know, to make change, to be that change that I want to see the world, as they say. It's so inspiring and wonderful. Like, my project right now is actually writing a book about chakra healing, and that's why I'm so drawn to the idea of like fangirling right now. I don't know if you can tell. Well, in my perspective, like healing really comes from within. From my experience going through the medical system, especially in like mental illness. But when I found like the Eastern side of healing and I merged them together, that's where I really fully embodiedly heal. So I am not sure if there has been someone who has been interviewed about this. I'm sure but Any Day is here, so I'm not really worried. It's just maybe people talking about that inside, because I've tried really just, talking to my peers about this, and it was easier to kind of get into them by just showing myself. It's a different way, but that's why I thought of writing the book. It's more like a subtle way of because there's already in the marketing research, that's what people are looking for. So I'm just looking for what they're looking for, and that's where I'm trying to fill like the void of the market in my own little way. So I really want to.
What do you hear that they're looking for? Did you say they're looking for healing from within?
Yeah, and chakra healing specifically. Those
healing.
2 words.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I'm already there. Yeah, I've written a number of books on the subject, and I'm glad to hear you're writing another one. That's really good. The more the merrier. And it's another model, and it's a model of wholeness, and what we need is models of wholeness, ways to come back and reintegrate what's been severed, whether it's heaven from earth or mind from body or masculine from feminine, and all that has been severed needs to be brought back together into wholeness. Yeah. And the chakra system is one that does that. So great. Well, I'm hearing a lot from people around health, one way or another, and a lot of interest in that, so yeah, and there's been some that have been written here into the chat too. Dr. Nader of TM, they're getting insurance to pay for it based on evidence that it works. Yeah, that might be someone to reach out to. Joshua Becker, being minimalist, which helps the environment too. That would be an interesting one. The whole tiny houses movement and the minimalist movement. I'm writing some of these down.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, consumption. Minimalist is the opposite is maximalist, and the level of consumption that, especially in the US, that is done is just not good for the planet. Consumerist culture.
Grace says universal decent standard of living. Well, that's what universal income is trying to start to level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah. And Nina wrote, I would like to hear from community builders, male, female, of all colors and nationalities, how they accomplish a new community. Also, I need happy stories that have moved humankind up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier. How do we find, as Nina's saying, the stories, people who've helped move society up without, and also whether that's a program by itself, but that's where our variety of programs is, because also, we need to understand the shadow side, just as our own personal psychology understand our own shadow side, society's shadow side, because that shadow side is what's harming the planet, not only from the economic standpoint, but from the ecological standpoint. And we're seeing firsthand what's going on with the weather these days.
Yeah, we've been trying to get Bill McKibben on climate change, and he keeps giving us the runaround. He's a very busy man, but we've been trying to get him because that's such an issue. Judy, you raised your hand. Did I see?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts to cut through to what I want to say. It's these subjects are so big. And when I was listening to the lineup, Michael, that you had said, I have to say I realized over the last year how many I've missed, but I had heard so many of them prior. And I've heard a lot also on your interviews, your quantum interviews on the leading edge. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, from when I was doing them live.
So again, just trying to focus in on what I want to ask or say. First of all, sometimes I feel like, why isn't it heaven on earth? Because I know so many beautiful people. When I listen to interviews with the fabric of the people that you brought on, it's very moving. It's there's no lack of great minds and great hearts and great speakers. You two being among them. And I don't know if what I want to say is that with all of this, it seems to me that we are racing with time. And I don't know if in saying that, I'm investing in an apocalyptic dystopian kind of mindset, which I certainly don't want to be. And yet I don't want to be in a la-la land either. So I was just listening to the PBS Evening News. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Michael, he was big guy in the Trump time. John, he was like bright mustache with a B. Anyway,
Not ringing the bell.
Yeah, if I said it, you'd know immediately. I can't believe it slipped my mind. But anyway,
Bannon?
Who is it?
Talking about somebody at Trump's time, Bannon, who worked with him?
No, not Bannon. He was actually an official. He was, I think, the head of staff or security advisor, might have been security advisor. Anyway, one of the people who we all knew at the time, and he, of course, is now anti-Trump, but he was saying on the news how he thinks that the only way that Trump doesn't have almost like a clear path to possibly winning is if some of these indictments that he's really found guilty on the federal level, not on the state level, that isn't going to matter, that the only way. So I just bring that up. I just watched it. But, thinking about what's going on in our country with the 2024 election, listening to leaders like Helen Caldicott, who is one of the great, most knowledgeable, single-handedly leader of the anti-nuclear movement for decades. And I've met her and I've heard her speak, and knowing what's going on in the Ukraine with the nuclear power plant and how close we are. I mean, the doomsday clock, how close we are to a global nuclear event. It's like, I don't even know what the question is, except to say that, Michael, I was talking to Lynn Murphy the other day, who's a friend of ours here. She's also another yoga teacher like I am. And we discovered that we're both very interested in Great Mother. I just did a show that was about the Great Mother. She's doing a Mary Magdalene workshop, but my question to her, and I guess this is my question, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who talked about, right at that point on the spiral where it's either going to go into evolution. I wish she was here now to say what she thinks, because I said to Lynn, do you think the Great Mother's is there going to be a miracle? I want to think there's going to be a miracle. I think about Andrew Cohen, Michael, and his saying, I want to keep coming back to help the world. I don't want to get off the wheel of karma. I want to keep coming back. I want to humanity is so beautiful. I want to keep helping. I wonder what Andrew Cohen is thinking right now. I wonder what, and Lynn said, we're in a state, she felt, of dying, that the great mother who gives and takes, that it's obvious with all that's happening with climate change and everything that we all know is happening. And I mean, dying with the nuclear threat and everything is the eradication possibly of humanity.
Yes.
So I feel like, are we at that cusp where humanity is about to be gone, with all these beautiful people that speak on your show, with all the advances in the arts and sciences, with all the love, with all the consciousness movement? How close are we to that cusp? And I still want to believe the Great Mother's going to come through and that there's going to be a miracle. But you see someone like Marianne Williamson, who is running for president. I mean, people talking here, talking there, ideas. This woman is running for the president of the United States. I mean, you can't get a bigger voice, but her voice isn't even being heard.
Yeah.
She's gotten so far as to be in that place, and she may not agree with everything everyone thinks here that's talking, but she is a voice for this movement. And
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So if she can't even get a voice being in the position of running for president of the United States, what the F?
Well, we all have to amplify her voice and the things she's saying, you know. Yeah, well, thank you. There was a lot of different things, but I think we're all with you on all of them, you know.
Oh.
Daniel Ellsberg, who recently died, he was the man who, you know, the Pentagon Papers and all of that. He recently died. Before he died, he was talking about the very real threat of nuclear war. And we are at that, you know, close to midnight. But that also means that we are close to rebirth, that we are close to birthing a new paradigm, that breakdown precedes breakthrough. Now, nuclear war is a kind of breakdown I hope that we don't have to see in order to break down the old structures, because that's pretty devastating and it's not something we recover from. But all that we see, you know, you talked about Barbara Marx Hubbard, she would say these are all evolutionary drivers. These are, you know, the problems we have of climate change and income disparity and racism and white nationalism and you know, all the different things that we are talking about. They're all part of a dying paradigm that is breaking apart, and there are voices in many people lifting it up into something new. But you know, it's like the scab has to come off before the new you know, the new skin can heal over. I don't know if that's the best example, but, you know, so I think we're with you. And it's like, how do we hold all this in a context of rebirth? One, you talk about the Great Mother, and then I'll you know, I'm trying to respond to the different points you brought up.
I know, it was a lot to say.
Mother gives birth. And if a woman were pregnant and she didn't ever know anybody else being pregnant, and she didn't know what was going on, and she started going into labor, she would say she's in terrible pain and she would think she's going to die. And, you know, if you told her, no, you're going to bring a baby out of this little tiny opening you have, she would think she's going to die. But that miracle happens every day, that women give birth, but the process is painful. And any woman who's given birth knows that. The process is painful. And the pain is something that has been held in contraction, has to stretch and open, and has to let go, and has to release, and has to, you know, for everything that we have falling apart, at the same time, there's something else opening. And it's evolution's way of teaching us, not that way, this way, you know, don't turn right, turn left, or go center, or, and it's a process of giving birth that we're in. And if that's the great mother, bring her on. I mean, I'm writing a book on the goddess, so I'm writing about all this as we speak. I just finished the rough draft today, the first draft, and writing about all that. But I don't know that it's a passive miracle. I think we are co-creators in that birth process, and we're all giving birth to it.
So do you feel, having said that, and I know how vested you are in all of this from, following you for a long time.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I met you when you were here, when you were speaking.
Oh, okay.
And I'm good friends with Nini too.
Okay,
So,
great.
Anyway, I mean, being vested in all that, what is your true feeling though at this point about the race with time? And for many people, including myself, daily life is so much about working to pay the bills and survive, and both spiritually as well as physically and creatively, but just to survive. And I just wonder, with so many people in the same boat and far worse than me, I mean, what do you, where are you on the hope meter? Michael knows I always ask him, what's your level of hope right now? Where are you with hope? And I've turned to him for hope, and I count on him for hope. But I honestly, it's hard to keep it. It's hard to keep hope alive. So I would say, if I were going to say what I'd want to hear more about is
yeah, let's bring it to that.
Bring it to hope. How do we keep hope alive in a real tangible way? A way that doesn't seem airy-fairy, but that is solid and real and bottom up, I guess, but to believe that bottom up is going fast enough.
Yeah, good. We want to make it so other people can share too. But yeah, all right, I've got you. How do we keep hope in the dark times that we are going through? How do we go ahead?
Oh, I was going to say, Judy brought up, she asked me, and the way I do is that the most recent book I wrote was on politics and economics, the intersection of politics, internet economics, and spirituality. But the way I do is understand the solutions. So that's why I don't just have, as Judy put it, but like an empty hope, or in Buddhism they call it idiot compassion, but a wise compassion, understanding how we can get there. And I'm not the only one who's laid out specific ideas for this. It gets lost in the noise. I mean, Judy brought up Marianne Williamson running. She's brought up solutions. She wrote an economic bill of rights. But the issues we face are so immense and so many that it's not one person, Marianne Williamson or you or me or Anday or anyone, but it's many people, the mobilization of many people. And even if it's just individual acts of practicing random acts of kindness, as the saying goes, or being part of a larger community, or doing things, bigger things just individually, or it's there. And also we have to watch out we don't get caught up in the Deus ex machina syndrome of thinking the gods are going to descend and save us. That miracle, as Anadea pointed out, we have to work to make any miracles happen. And then they're not even miracles, or just, we can call it that, but it's that action. And as Anna Day also pointed out from Barbara Marx Hubbard, that, as Barbara Marx Hubbard said, crises are evolutionary drivers. And not that we
need them to upset a system and take it out of equilibrium so that it can evolve, because systems at equilibrium don't change very much. Yeah. But I think also, and even going back to what Jazz Hands was saying about, having a speaker on who's leading, the gender conversation, the LGBTQ, whatever. If we look at the success of various things that have come into the culture, like the gay movement, it didn't come from a leader. It came from more and more people coming out and saying, this is who I am, and unapologetically being themselves. And as that happened in greater and greater numbers, it became a movement, not because someone was leading it, but because individuals were coming and claiming who they are and claiming their freedom to be who they are. And yes, there's a backlash. Every movement has a backlash, and that we're seeing that backlash in politics in the Supreme Court right now. But that backlash is not going to stop it. The white nationalists are not going to stop pluralism. It's here to stay. The Christian right is not going to stop drag queens. It's there's this movement of us to be who we are and to be in diversity is just part of nature. That's not going to be stopped, even though there's going to be efforts to do so. And those efforts to squash are just a sign that we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, historically, anytime there's progress, there's always a backlash of the reactionary, and you look at brain physiology, same thing, that in our lower brain, the brain stem, the limbic system, it's survival or emotional, and then the more evolved parts of the brain, the neocortex, are the more forward thinking. So there'll always be, as there's forward thinking, there's always people latching on, just still stuck in there, the lower aspects, lower elements of the brain, and aiming for survival and nationalism, or just basically spewing hate. I mean, that's what we see, and it's it can be upsetting for anyone to who's on the receiving end of that hate or just sees what's going on. But it's really just that reaction, especially when people are losing grip. But a lot of times they come along kicking and screaming. For instance, the infrastructure bill that passed Congress earlier this year, the Inflation Reduction Act, and was pretty much unanimously voted down by Republicans in the Senate. But it passed. This was must have been last year, losing timeline. But what's happening now in southern states, in red states that are receiving a lot of money, the senators and representatives are now touting the benefits of all that money coming to them and what's happening. So, like I said, kicking and screaming, but they're smaller in number but louder with their megaphone.
Yeah. It's been said that with new ideas, at first they ignore you. Oh. Then how does it go, Michael? At first they ignore you, then they fight you, then they pass laws against you, and then you win.
Yeah, then they join you.
And then they join you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Bowler, supporting missions to make a positive difference. Yeah, that would be good. Ben Bowler is a member of the evolutionary leaders. Yeah, we could get him. Yeah, Unity Earth. Good suggestion, Grace. Thank you.
Yeah, Grace, you've had your hand raised. If that means you did want to talk, feel free.
I just love that you're doing this, and I just hope. I didn't read your book, Michael. I feel so overwhelmed. I would love both of your support for helping me put my book out. I have so many ideas. My parents are involved in international affairs. I'm an artist turned writer. But I have a mind that I just bring together ideas from everywhere, and I get flooded with them. And I need support to get a book out. So I'd love it if either of you or anybody who could help me with this. But Michael, I wonder what your thinking is related to what I was sharing, that I feel we're missing a connection between climate change and economics, that we have a lot of nations at risk, existential risk. Actually, I wrote something I submitted to the UN, they may have read, just supporting the island nations to stand up for their rights, get zero loan interest and things like that. I did some research before I submitted it. I kind of forget it now. It's been more than a year back since the General Assembly was meeting. But then I started on something else I've been working on. I have a submission for common sense, peace in the world. And a lot of it is what I think is common sense. And I'd love to share it with you folks. And I want to get it submitted, publicly seen, but just rights of workers that are automatic, universal fair trade. The EWG sets a model how we could check on fair trade when we buy things and purchase. But the bigger thing is also every nation, regardless of their economy or their population size, deserves a voice. So how can we speak to the UN or renew the UN, because some nations feel non-represented, they don't feel it's fair to them. So how can we, my dad worked with WFUNA and with UNA, US UNA, and my mom worked with International Consumer Affairs. So I grew up with that. And how can we have a message and the understanding that we have to have a fair economics and fair voices? So the fact that a nation depends on fossil fuels for its economy, how can they support climate change and be sane if that's their voice, if that's their economic viability? So we need just transitions, not just for coal miners, which is fabulous. And I'm so glad they're doing that. But we need just transitions for nations who are using fossil fuels. And I know there's hydrogen, I was reading up on it, but then it can't be transported easily. So nations that have depended on transporting fuel for their economies don't see hydrogen as viable. There was an article in the Washington Post about that because of the cost and trickiness of transporting it. So these are big issues. I'd love you folks to get involved and get people to speak on this. How can we guarantee voices for everybody worldwide, all cultures, all identities, all economies? I personally think we should put human rights second and respect first, because if we look at bullies, psychology of bullies, the emptier or weaker someone feels, and the more dominated and bullied they've been and hurt themselves and suffering inside, the more they're going to bully, right? So North Korea, what happened just today, I think, it's just ridiculous. It's offense creates defense, creates offense, creates defense. And anybody who knows psychology and common sense, with Hassan Hussein, for example, you threaten somebody like that, they're just going to defy you, even if it means killing all their people. I'm exaggerating, but close to that. We've got to put human rights second. I know that sounds awful, and women's rights second. I know that's horrible. It makes me get so depressed. I feel like, how can I live thinking of women's rights getting taken down like that? But I think we've got to support from within, so that just like with people feeling good within in the healthy ways, so the good food, the good psychology, the good security, the good identity, the good economy, the good cultural solidity and sense of respect, being seen, heard, respected, there they begin to, then the things the things that aren't healthy fall away. I've had spinal stenosis, and I did some research, and this chiropractor had success with nutrition and right spinal alignment. The bone spurs actually fall away. Can you imagine that? Bone actually dissolves back into the blood and gets excreted out when the body gets the alignment that it needs. So what if we take that idea for everything, when we get the alignment where we're in harmony with what really counts for people, respect all people, the deeper part, not even like the excess avarice is from lack. I know people like that who, as babies, a friend of mine's baby she couldn't give him any attention because she was a doctor in the military. And so she just handed him toys. Well, 2 years later, she said, what's wrong with him? All he wants is toys all the time. But that's because he was deprived of the emotion. So, if we just realize filling all of us up with respect and self-esteem in the healthy sense, not narcissism, no confusing, it's opposite. Narcissists have no self-respect. They have no self-esteem, complete misalignment of our language. But if we really feel what we need, and we do that in social media, we combat all the negativity in social media, we get influencers to spread this, and social media to spread this. We get academics to let down their egos and their status. We're at an emergency point. People can't worry about they had that idea first or second or third, or they have this status. We have human species to defend and survive in a meaningful way, you know? So, so I think, you know, all together we can do that. And as Judith was saying there, and as all of you have been saying, there's many people involved, but we need to come together and then get those people with the social media skills, I think, the influencer skills. So, yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
my nephew was with Ralph
Thank
Nader, who
you.
gave a wonderful talk and had brilliant talkers. Had so small attendance, and it was one of the most brilliant exciting a few years ago. This is incredible. His ability to do social media, even though he's Ralph Nader, was so poor. You know, we just need to have, and we need to have the technical people on board who care and are passionate and heart-centered, and
That's right.
and really, you know, have the knowledge and the heart, right? So
Great. Thank you, Grace. Thank you,
Right.
Grace. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even this podcast that we've been doing for 3 years, you know, we get maybe about 20 people on per time. How do we get that out there? Because we do have a lot of good speakers with good ideas, but we don't have a lot of audience. Yeah.
yeah, there's some influences out there. Maybe you could get both of you and get some of these other people being interviewed by them, or even cultivate a new, maybe we just need to find people who are into that, who are just wonderful interviewers, and have them start something like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Or
Thank you.
maybe Marianne Williamson could do a series of interviews with all these people and have that as part of her platform, and also give these views a bigger audience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's a pretty busy girl right now. Does anyone else wish to speak that hasn't? Gail, would you like to say anything?
Well, Gail, you put in the chat box.
Yes.
Oh, Humanities Team, they're great.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me? No, eh?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Oh,
Certainly.
you can hear me. Okay. Yes. I listened. This is my first time listening to you, and you've passed in my email box, and I wanted to so many times, but it's here, and I'm so happy to be tuned in to you and all of you. I listened, I think it was last week or the week before, to Humanities Team, and they have, yes, you know of them?
Oh, yeah. They're
Okay.
carrying some of my courses. Yeah.
Okay.
Carol is a wonderful guy. I met him at a conference recently.
Okay, and that's it. They were also saying it's advertising and education, right? And so they're putting together a course that they intend to distribute worldwide, free, a first course, because they want to raise consciousness by 2040. I was personally so happy to have like a deadline, like there's a deadline. We're going to work towards that then, you know. So all along the way, yes, it gave me so much hope and so much inspiration. And so I'm going to be tuning into you guys regularly now. And to yes, I'm also a yoga teacher, and we just finished our last session. It was on the yamas and niyamas, and but people were really in angst about the world situation and global warming, the climate. And that afternoon, after the class finished, we had a tornado warning here, where we never have them in Quebec, you know, like, and I was on the road with it, and it's here. And so people are really wanting also a lot of hope, and hope with substance. And so yes, I feel like we need to create communities and create groups of people for support for each other, small scale and then larger, interweaving it. Also, I'm living in a big house alone right now, and I'm seriously looking at tiny houses, and I don't really know about construction. I don't know about tiny houses. So I would really appreciate if you had somebody in to educate us about, you know, having one built, or the logistics of it and things like that. I would. Oops.
Okay. Yes. So that was again that request for someone that does minimalism and can talk about tiny houses and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
because I think in a year or two, I'm there. I'm really there. I'm getting fed up with all the time it takes to take care of a big place.
Yep, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more
Thank you, Gail.
important stuff to do now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Gail brought up a really good point about community, and I've thought about this, doing this discussion group. Anna Day and I have built a little community, but mainly we've been doing the interviews in a webinar format where nobody's on screen. We interview people, and people write in the chat box, so we get questions, we engage that way. So I've thought about it, is there down the road at some point, is there something we could do to create more community, like these discussion groups? So I'm wondering if anyone would like to share thoughts if we were to form some sort of community, whether it's just doing the discussion groups or using a network like Mighty Network, how you might like to see it structured. Leah, you're raising your hand, so is that something you want to address?
Sure. I just want to share that I'm part of a few sanghas. So one of my sanghas is with my yoga teachers, and then I have another one with a mindfulness group, and it's great. Someone just facilitates in a Zoom call with people coming in. They will do like a check-in at the beginning, and then they will discuss some issues, and then people can share what's in their hearts, and people learn from each other because you can see what's important in other people, and usually that's what's important in myself too. So it's just a great way to do sangha with people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it would be a Voices for the Future community sangha of some sort. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. Anna Day and I have never talked about it, or just a little bit. But yeah, so it's just because we have a theme, a vision, creating a more beautiful world, and we do that with the various people we interview. So we'll think more. I mean, it's great just connecting with people this way. I mean, it's back before Zoom, people connected live.
Yeah.
Those were live, but Zoom has its advantages, disadvantages, but advantages. Yeah. So thank you, Leah, for for your thoughts on that.
Sounds fabulous.
I would like to say something else if I could. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I also I've been bringing yoga into a couple of elementary schools in my area since 2016, and it's I'm interested to bring it in a more substantial way, because they want me in, but it's not a subject in the school yet, and I would like to see it as a subject. Self-care and how the body and mind work, and interconnected, all of the yoga, and so I would appreciate ideas about that as well, or other people who are interested in doing that as well.
Yeah, yoga in the schools and making it a curriculum. Yes, wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Does anyone who hasn't spoken feel like they want to jump in with anything before we come to a close? Teresa or Priscilla? Oh, we got quiet ones there. Well, this is all great input, and it's really nice to see your faces. It's nice to hear your voices. It's nice to know what you want. It's nice to create some community. And we will take all this to heart, and we'll take it back to our drawing board as we look at the next year of doing this. And I've made notes on everything that I've heard. And Michael, do you have any last words?
No, I made notes too. Yeah, I think, as we talked about, that it's not one person, it's going to be lots of people to shift this world, shift our own lives, shift the world into a better place, a more beautiful world. And I think, we all keep that in mind. We have hope with purpose, and, community is important. So yeah, that's why it came to my mind, will we evolve our voices for the future into something more than just an interview series. I mean, continue doing the interviews and whatever else, but we feel in doing them that we want to offer hope to people.
What you're doing is so great and so wonderful. I lost connection for a moment. I just wanted to ask you, did you see about the Peace Ambassador course that I posted in chat? Because I lost connection right after I shared that. Shift had this amazing program, and I forget the names of some of the speakers, but it was incredible and very much related to this concept of voices for the future, called Peace Ambassador. And they did it a few years ago, but it's worth, if you can, like, if you want, suggest them to do it again or another version. You folks might want to have some of those people come speak. Very much about envisioning a better world in many ways. That was just, really was wonderful, incredible offering, and connected with what you're doing. So I'm so grateful to you folks. I really, whatever we can do, all of us and you folks, and just both of you, just really beautiful, wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Also, if you need help with the Sangha, you can reach out to me because I hold the Sanghas for my group. So I have a little bit of experience.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Leah, put your email in the chat.
Yeah, if you do that, I'll write it down.
I just was going to say that there's, with all these wonderful ideas, and I can't remember who was, maybe Grace, about the media, and like that Ralph Nader couldn't get media, or I was just thinking of how innovative Bill Moyers was. Oh my God, all those incredible interviews and visions that he had. So it seems like for you, but for this series, in terms of hope with substance, which I think is the bottom line, is it seems like expanding to be part of, to let these other organizations that people are talking about know about you, because it making a joining forces with other like-minded people. I'm
That's
not,
how it happens.
You know what I mean? That so that you would have a greater audience by also connecting with organizations that already have a greater audience, not to be dissolved, but rather to be given a greater platform, because it is very hard for you to get, a bigger group. I see that. And what you're doing is so important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeez.
Thank you. Jazz Hands has his hand up. Has a jazz hand up. You're muted. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I also wanted to volunteer, I guess, offer my services if helpful as a facilitator. As a radical fairy, facilitated a many heart circles, discussion circles from the heart, and also I'm a facilitator in my day job. So if I can help in any way, I'm happy to.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Could you have your email address in the chat box, Jazz Hands, whether just to me or Anna Day, or just to everyone, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I got Leah's down. Yeah, if you can just put it in the chat, and then everybody will have it there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. Yeah, I think Jennifer.
Jennifer, you have a last comment, and then I think we'll bring it to a close.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question. When we're one person and we're wide awake and we're here in this consciousness of what is right now, sometimes with all of these beautiful subjects that do require us to come together on, it's a lot. But I just I guess I wonder, like, for one person. Like I look inward for myself. Where, what do you do? Where do you begin? You know, like I have time. I have, you know, resources. You know, like I'm brilliant. I've got this mind. I'm here on earth. You know, you kind of, and you want to make use of this experience on earth in this life. But sometimes I just kind of wonder, well, you know, I'm awake all the hours of the night, and I sit and I get ideas of inspiration. You know, I say to my husband, well, it comes through me. I'm receiving constant information, and you know, I'm receiving, it's all inspiration. But there's so many things. So
Yeah.
what is you guys' suggestion? Like, I listened to the She Rises, and that's the one that I tuned in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is magnificent. And women, it's beautiful to realize that some of society wants to listen to women as well now. You know, that's really cool and awesome. But it's in everything, right? So it's that balancing again. But so like individually, where do we best take our step forward to be a part of that community, just as at the beginning we were talking, right? Like finding your tribe. Like I can feel you guys all buzzing right in here. Like I feel it. But I'm going like, what do I do? What can I do? You know, how can I help? I've got my pencils and my notebook, and I'm like, oh, what can I, you know, how can we create this together? Like I've got the faith. You know, we're here, we're in the light, we're creating, we're connected with the mother, we're connected with the mother. The person who was talking, Judith, who's talking about mother, oh my gee, we're connected with the mother. I'm just like, so we feel the mother if we're in tune, but the mother feels us too. So there is light, and there is heaven coming on earth. I mean, there are people there's so much beauty, and it's not fake. But guess what? If all of the media were to shut off for a week, and all of the news channels and all of that fear were to just shut off and be like, whoa, and everybody was just like, hey, whoa, where's that heart space? Whoa, whoa. Like just in the global pandemic alone, I don't know how many days it was of shift and change, but the mother knew exactly what to do. And in those couple days, there was magnificence, there was magic, there were miracles, and there are always miracles. It's just whether we're open and we're seeing them happening. So what can I do? How can I help?
Thank you. I think that what you're saying, Jennifer, is in everyone's heart of, you know, it may be that it's not so much speakers that we need to hear who tell us about something. We get a lot of that. We get that on the news every night. We get speakers telling us about something. People want to know, what can I do? How can I get involved? How can I contribute? How can I make a difference? And I think this is another thing I'm hearing from all the people on the call and the people that I meet in my walks of life. It's, you know, we know the situation, we know a lot of the answers. It's a question of what can we do? And so we'll take that question to heart as well as a focus.
Yeah. And Jennifer, just keep that passion you have. Just keep growing it. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you.
writing down emails and making notes. If I look down, that's what I'm doing. All right. Well, we've gone almost an hour and a half. I think we need to bring it to a close. So any last comments, Michael?
No, this is great. We were long overdue to do it. And we kept booking guests and never would have the time. And then I finally thought, let's do it. So thank you, everyone. And, really take it to heart and see how we can evolve, expand, keep doing the programs, and what more we can do.
And I really feel each of your hearts, yeah, and your shares, yeah.
Yeah, thanks
So
to
let's
everybody.
just conclude with closing our eyes and imagining this world that we all know is possible. We all know what it needs. We've all spoken those words, you know, the love and the peace and the understanding and the embrace of diversity, and the, you know, we know all these things. Let's vision it right now together and feel it in our hearts. And imagine across this Zoom and all the different places in the world we're calling from, we're holding up our hands and making contact with each other. We're creating a neural network that gives these ideas strength, gives them wings to fly, gives them roots to ground, and lets them grow and evolve and wrap around this culture that is dying with a new growth of what is really the voice of the future calling us. We can make this together. We are making it together. We are waking up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
we will do this again, and we'll see what we're going to do from here. And thank you all. We'll all be a part of it. Thank you, Anadea.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you so
for the
much.
new people that came on for the first time, it was great. All right.
Okay. Peace out,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
you.